in the same place probably Johnny and Bobby and Tabby are, because it's both a blessing and a curse to remember. You know, this church already this year has suffered through a lot of the first. You think Thanksgiving was a first. You know, the Fall Festival without Steve was a first. All of those things will be first, you know. And, but, you know, I have a peace to know this morning, you know, where my brother is, you know. And he was a brother, and his brother Doug's reminded me, you know, I got to, you know, very rarely in life do you have the opportunity to have a true friend. Amen. And I think about this church, and as I look out across the congregation this morning, you know, I thank the Lord not only for placing Brother Steve in my life and that he was my friend, you know, that a lot of times when I had a problem, you know, I'd call him. When he had an issue, he'd call me. But, you know, I look at it and I say, well, we got the opportunity, you know, now for each other to do what he's taught us to do as a pastor. He's done his job. Amen. And now he's reaping the reward in heaven. You know, that's what I strive for. When Paul mentions that text this morning, that's not my message. But he said we just strive for the high calling, that mark that God has set. You know, I just thank God that he was that example, as Tracy mentioned. He taught me, a person, I want to tell you, I had a hard heart. I've said this. I've said it now all the way through these times, these last several months that we've went through these firsts. I had a very hard heart. You know, you wanted help. I wasn't the person to come to. It was Steve. But he taught me as that living example. He stood before me with the love of Christ in his heart. And I thank God just to be able to know him. He's one on my list. Him and Jesus, I tell you, has probably been the most influential people in my life. And I don't put them there together. Steve wouldn't want me to do that. Jesus is on high. But it was Christ living through him that made him the person and the man that he was. And I thank God this morning that he placed him in my life. And also, those of you that's in here that know me, know that I was raised by my great-grandparents. And I thank God for placing them in my life too at a time when he knew I was going to need what they had to offer. Amen. I can remember, as the brother said a while ago, my grandmother praying for me. We miss that today. Amen. Think about that with our children. You know, even me, I stand here before you today, and I don't know how many times my son's heard me pray for him. Now, I have many times. But I think that we ought to go back to the way it used to be, when we used to pray openly for our children. And we used to let them know that, that shows them that we love them. It shows them that we have a reverence for God. And I thank God I had an example of my grandmother that done that. Now, my grandfather, on the other hand, he taught me morally what the difference between right and wrong. But I can remember the only time I ever heard him mention the Lord's name is in a story that he told me about a peeping Tom that had peeked in there on my grandmother. My Uncle Charles tells the story, he said he can remember it just like it was yesterday. He said that as Pop got a call from the neighbor, and I want to say this just to lighten the air a little bit, as Pop got a call from the neighbor, and he said he can remember Pop hanging up the phone and said, "I'm going to take care of it." And he went to the room and got his gun. And he kicked open the door where my grandmother was. And he said you could see the eyes of that guy was glued to the window. When he seen Pop with the gun, he took off out across the backyard. And they said my grandpa kicked the door open out the back door and shot. And he said when the shot hit the guy in the back of the neck, all he heard him say was, "Oh, Lord." That's the only time I ever heard him say the Lord's name. But later in life, I got the opportunity to lead him to the Lord. And it was because of people that were faithful. I thank God for every whipping I ever got. I needed every one of them. Amen. I thank God for every time my grandmother broke the switch off the bush and whipped my hind end. The other one I want to mention is is Ray, and that's a man that probably nobody will remember. Me and Steve tell the story of him all the time, but as a guy that we got the opportunity to pray with in a hospital through some events that I won't tell the whole story, but he was going to shoot us all as we walked out the door. Just as we were threatened by him because we were marrying his daughter, and he didn't agree with that marriage, and he said he was going to shoot everybody that walked out the door. It went from that to him coming and sitting on the pew, giving his daughter away in the service, to us getting the opportunity to deal with him through a sickness that he was going through, to us getting the opportunity to lead him to Christ. And I can still remember that was one of them, if you, by the world standards, Michael, that was one of the wickedest men that ever walked the face of this earth. But the spirit that was in that room that night when that man gave his life to Christ and he called out to God and he begged him to save him, I'll never forget. Nobody in this room knows Ray. I don't even know how much his family remembers him. But I'll never forget him. And I just thank God. Those are the things that keep me doing what I'm doing now. Amen. You know, a sense of duty will take you so far. Doing good will take you so far. Love for your family,